Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff here. Some more seed collab goodness, hopeful goodness, in the form of their Bygone Light. You look at this beer. I mean, you're going to read the title, so it's given away. This is, I was going to be like, what would you guess this beer is by the name Bygone Light and with this kind of like, neon kind of Aurora Borealis thing going on. Would you guess a honey old ale? Nitrogenized in the can, right? This is nitroed, right? Bygone old ale with honey. Enjoy fresh recycle. Wayward Lane. Why did I think... Oh, it does say. It says nitro, shake gently, pour hard down the bottom, so I wasn't making stuff up. Yeah, it's kind of a weird cover, because you think like old-timey weird stuff when it comes to a... Gotta listen to the rules. I almost forgot. Oh, the cap didn't... It's one of those things where the cap didn't actually push down. Okay, there we go. See, the last time I did one of these, it foamed out of the can, even though it was nitrogenized, but that one looks really, really good. Label-wise, I actually do really dig it. It's a little bit more of a graphical take than what I typically see on seed stuff, but yeah. And honestly, Wayward Lane is my first experience with them. I believe they're out of New York State. But you're talking about, does it look like an old ale with honey? Yeah, it does, because that's... I guess what they all look like. Two fingers, infinite creamy head. Listen, nitro beer, we poured it rough. We're supposed to do that. And as far as the body goes, minus a little bit of Dirty Glass Mafia on my end, it looks the part of what you expect of kind of an old ale. When I think of old ale, I think of more barley wine-ish level stuff. Double digits, bigger beers. This is 6.7%. That's like classic old ale style. Open ferment style. I don't know if they've actually did that with this beer. But you're talking about, old ale with honey. I dig me some honey beers. If they're done right, they can really knock my socks off, so I'm really excited to give this a whirl. But it looks the part so far, so let's give it a whirl. Let's see if I can get it nice. I smell coffee. Yeah, I smell a really nice roasted malt that, for me, becomes very close to coffee. Now, that could be kind of a little bit of my nose playing tricks on me. Sure. Darker beer, roasted malts, kind of makes sense. You could get coffee-esque kind of vibes from it. I think what really seals it home might be that honey. Honey is really not a fermentable sugar for beer, so it ends up being a little bit sweeter, or it gives the perception of an added sweetness to the beer. So you end up having this kind of like just added, like sugar added to coffee kind of thing. And that's why I think it kind of comes off the coffee for me. I do know that it's almost counterproductive too, because you end up with a completer ferment or more attenuated ferment, because honey typically carries the same enzyme. Is it enzyme? That Brux enzyme, the same stuff that's in champagne, that kind of just like completely dries out champagne. That can be in honey too. So it could be one of those weird things where it smells a little sweet, but it'll come off a little bit more drier. But it smells like a little bit of kind of honey and coffee kind of vibe to me. I'm here for that. That smells really awesome. That's all I'm getting now. I cannot not fixate on it. So it's like a roasted malt a la coffee with a little bit of soft, sweeter kind of honey vibes to it. But again, not like icky, sticky honey. It's almost like a little dissolved in coffee kind of honey kind of vibe. So it's not just straight honey. It's just this washed out kind of sweetness that you would associate with honey. Better way to put it. Let's just dive in. Curious. Cheers. That's very interesting. I like it. It's weird because it's a nitro beer with honey in it, with coffee vibes and taste of honey. Why I say that's weird, for me, a lot of times, again, you get that little bit of drier finish on the honey beers, but you do have that little bit of sweetness. You're getting that here, but it almost feels like it's kind of killed the carbonation to a certain extent. That can be the case a lot of times with your nitro beers, especially the ones without the full-on classic widget inside of it. It has this kind of nitro kind of cascade when you originally open it, but it kind of burns off pretty quick. This, I feel like, has a little bit of the honey kind of helping to accelerate that process. So the beer actually, while looking with a beautiful head, comes off a little bit flat. And then when you have that added combination of that honey in there, they tend to add a little bit of like flabbiness to beers, like a little bit of kind of texturalized mouthfeel that comes off as what I deem as flabby. And that kind of accentuates that little bit of kind of lack of carbonation. But again, it's a nitro beer, so it's kind of like you're playing that kind of game back and forth between that soft creaminess and then that little bit of flatness that you end up getting with a not quickly drank kind of nitrodized beer. Outside of that, roasted malts, it comes off very much like a coffee beer for me, stopping short of being a pure coffee beer. That added little bit of honey adds that little bit of sweetness that I like when it comes to my coffees. I'm a cream and sugar kind of person, but then you end up finishing relatively dry. You take that combination of that nitro, you take that little bit of that honey enzyme, ends up finishing relatively dry, but not to the point where you're just like desert mouth, enough to where you want to go back for another sip. I like this. I think it's fun. I mean, this is a portion of the show where I talk about, Mount Rushmore. Is this one of the better nitrogenized old ales with an E, not an old without an E, old with an E, with honey that I've ever had? It's number one because it's the only one I've ever had. It's not Mount Rushmore status beer for me. If I put it into like even a broad wide category like the best honey beer, best old ale, stuff like that, but it's a very fun beer, an interesting beer, and a very cool take. I like the cut. I like the fact they make beers like this. And honestly, I dig this in a can, but I want this on a hand pull. I want this just pulled right into a glass. And I think this beer screams a more beautiful tune. Again, I don't want to dismiss the beer for what it is in a can, but it just screams of at the brewery on a hand pull. And you put this on a beer engine, and I think this thing is just lights out, all-timer. But in a can, it's very, very tasty, and I'm glad I got to try it. Let's put it that way. Very much, like I said, coffee vibes. Soft little flirting honeys. And super, super clean, super drinkable beer. Yeah. Is it one of the better old ales I've had as of late? In general, yes, but not Mount Rushmore status. Value and availability, no idea. Vin, this is courtesy of Vin. I don't know if I said that. Chime in, please, and leave you with, if you like, what will you like this beer? If you like, listen, if you like old ales with an E, nitronized beer, you're gonna dig this beer. If you're a Haysboro or Hop Thought or something along those lines, it's a seed, maybe you buy it and you go, it's fun. But if you like classic old school styles of beer, I think you'll like the combination here, especially if you have it on that hand pull they hopefully have at the brewery. So there you go, review in the books. Hopefully you enjoyed. Massive Beers, you can check me out on the social media, just type in the old Massive Beers and the seed. Wayward Lane. Have you been to the breweries? Have you had their beers? What's your favorite beer? Have you had this beer? All that fun stuff down there. Hopefully you enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of nitro beer right now. Hopefully see you next time. Cheers, y'all.